Judah. Judah is the fourth child of Jacob and Leah, Jacob's fourth child in general. Through Leah, Judah had 3 older brothers, Reuben, Simeon and Levi, 2 younger brothers, Issachar and Zebulun, and his only sister Dinah. He has 2 younger brothers through his stepmother Bilhah, Dan and Naphtali, 2 more half-brothers through his stepmom Zilpah, Gad and Asher. Finally 2 more half-brothers through his stepmother Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. Genesis chapter 38 focuses exclusively on Judah. It begins with Judah leaving his family in Hebron and moving close to a town called Adullam, settling northwest of it, moving there because he had a friend living in Adullam named Hira. While visiting his friend, Judah meets a woman, the daughter of Shua, who he wants to marry. Despite her being a Canaanite, the people his great-grandfather Abraham forbid Judah's grandfather Isaac from marrying. In Genesis 24:3-4, his grandfather Isaac forbid Judah's father Jacob from marrying in Genesis 28:1, and who God through Moses forbid the Israelites from marrying in Deuteronomy 7:3. Nevertheless, even though it is prohibited, Judah marries his Canaanite bride and has 3 children with her, Onan and Shelah. Judah's oldest son marries a non-Israelite like his father, possibly a Canaanite. Her name is Tamar. However, the couple have no children, since God knew was evil and killed him before Tamar could conceive. Judah commanded his second-born, Onan, to marry his sister-in-law Tamar, to fulfill the law God would give to Moses in Deuteronomy 25:5-6. Onan was happy to marry Tamar but didn't want her to conceive any children, knowing the first son would be his deceased older brothers, as commanded in Deuteronomy 25:6. Yet Onan was attracted to Tamar, so had relations with her but made sure she never bore a child. This behaviour angered God, and he killed Onan because he refused to fulfill his duty to his brother. After the death of both and Onan, Judah commanded Tamar to remain a widow and live at his house until his youngest Shelah was an adult, and he would become her 3rd husband, again to obey Deuteronomy 25:5-6. Tamar agreed. A long time after the death of both and Onan, Judah's wife, the daughter of Shua, died, after which Judah left his home and travelled with his friend Hira the Adamite to Timnah to help Judah's shepherds share his sheep. Also at this time Tamar changed out of her widow's garments, wrapped herself in some new clothes, and covered her face with a shawl, before leaving Judah's house and travelling to the gateway of Enamah, located on the way to Timnah. Tamar went there in hopes of meeting Judah on his journey, since Shelah had grown up, yet Judah hadn't given him to her as a wife, as she wanted to speak to him about it. Some have suggested that Judah was hesitant to give Shelah to Tamar, seeing her as the reason and Onan died, although Genesis 38:10 confirms Onan died because he angered God with his refusal to fulfill his brotherly duties to Tamar, while was killed for an unknown sin recorded in verse 7, so Tamar might be the cause for him. Judah and Hira approached Tamar on their travels, yet didn't know it was her, believing her to be a temple prostitute as her face was covered. Judah inquired about her services, offering a goat as payment. She accepted but requested his signet ring, used for identification, cord, tassel, and staff as a deposit, which she would return when she received the goats. After the 2 were finished and Judah left, Tamar changed back into her widow garments and returned home. Judah's friend Hira returned to the temple with the goat promised, but couldn't find the woman. He described the woman to the temple workers, but they didn't recognize her. Hira the Adullamite returned to Judah and informed him of his discoveries. Judah didn't want to pursue the woman, not wanting to face the humiliation he and Hira would endure if their deception was revealed. 3 months later, Judah discovered that Tamar was pregnant. He was furious. To his knowledge, Tamar was still a widow and had not married his son Shelah, as Judah hadn't given him her hand in marriage, still suspicious that she was the cause of his other 2 sons' deaths. Despite this, Tamar was still technically engaged to Shelah, as the marriage was not officially off, causing Judah to conclude that she must have had an affair, and a true Tamar would be put to death, as was the law God would later command in Leviticus 20:10. Judah demanded Tamar be brought before him so she could plead her case. Tamar confirmed the child belonged to the man who owned these items, showing him a signet ring, cord, and staff. Judah immediately recognized the items and realized the child was his. Judah also realized that God had caused this to happen because he didn't allow Shelah to fulfill his brotherly duties. Tamar gave birth to twins. The oldest was named Perez, meaning a breach, and the youngest was Zerah, meaning adorning or brightness. When Zerah was born, he had a piece of scarlet thread tied to his hand. The midwife did this thinking at the time he was the first, however it turned out he was the second. This continues this idea of the youngest serving or being more righteous in God's eyes than the oldest, as seen in the stories of Cain and Abel, Ishmael and Isaac, Jacob and Esau, Joseph's treatment of his brothers in Egypt, giving Benjamin more food and supplies than the others, and God choosing David for king over his 6 older brothers. The next major record of Judah is found 11 chapters later in Genesis 49, starting in verse 8. It continues until verse 12 and is a blessing Jacob placed on him when he was very old and on the verge of death. Jacob also placed a unique blessing on each of his other 11 brothers. In Jacob's blessing to Judah, God confirms that most of Israel's kings and rulers would descend from his family line. This is fulfilled with all the biblical kings from David onwards being descendants of David, and David himself a descendant of Judah. This part of Jacob's blessing on Judah and God's promise to David are linked. Judah is one of David's ancestors. David and his descendants became the Old Testament biblical kingly line of Israel, and Judah, what the northern part of Israel was called when the nation split in half, another direct link between Judah and the kingly line. And Jesus is one of David's descendants. Jesus' kingdom is everlasting, making Judah's kingship last forever. The other interesting part of Jacob's blessing is Judah's comparison to a lion. The famous phrase, the Lion of Judah, originates from this blessing, and is a title attributed to Jesus by John in Revelation 5:5. In this verse, John also refers to Jesus as the Root of David, linking him to 2 Samuel 7, and a Lion of Judah directly to Judah, further linking Judah to David to Jesus. In conclusion, Judah is an important character in the biblical story. Despite him marrying a Canaanite, something forbidden by God through Abraham, Isaac, and Moses, and failed to obey God's command from Deuteronomy 25:6, God still blessed him to become the ancestor of his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, instead of one of his other 11 brothers. It is possible God did this because he saw Judah's heart. Although Judah was the one who proposed selling Joseph into slavery in the story recorded in Genesis 37, the alternative the others suggested was feeding him to a wild beast, so Judah might have decided this was the only way to save him, suggesting Judah wanted Joseph gone but not dead. Connected to this, a potential sign of remorse from Judah is recorded in Genesis 43:8-9, when he offers to take full responsibility if anything bad happens to Benjamin, his youngest brother, while the 2 and all their brothers travelled to Egypt to buy supplies during the famine. Judah potentially saw this situation as his fault, due to what he did to Joseph, and was willing and ready to pay for it, showing he had a heart after God. When Tamar revealed the reason why she deceived him, Judah's reaction is recorded in Genesis 38:26, saying, "She is more righteous than I, inasmuch as I did not give her to my son Shelah." This reaction shows that Judah saw the error of his ways, repented from his sin, and accepted the consequences of his actions, again showing that he had a heart after God. Both these situations show why God forgave Judah's sins and blessed him so prestigiously. He acknowledged his sin, repented of it, and accepted the consequences of his actions, giving an example we should all follow.